continue the People Daily. The front page there says, Raila eats humble pie. We have a picture of the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, there scratching his head. And the media does a good job in matching these pictures sometimes. The opposition leader seems to have retreated in his calls for dialogue with brave youth after public backlash with his core principal, Kalonzo Musyoka, warning that Kenyans want action and not talks to sanitize a failing regime. Let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Nation. The front page says, where are they? We have pictures of 5 Kenyans who are missing. One of them, Denzel Omondi's body, was found in a dam in Juja earlier this week. He was among those who protested outside Parliament on the 25th of June. Now, we'll be discussing this even as the President and the Interior Cabinet Secretary distance the government from the cases of abductions of anti-government protesters or anti-finance bill protesters over the last 1 month. But also on the front page of the Daily Nation, Raila's handshake dilemma as Kalonzo walks away. Now, you remember that the Wiper leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, was present during that joint address by President William Ruto and the ODM leader calling for dialogue, but seems to have walked away or backtracked from that decision after that. Then a look at the front page of the Standard newspaper. Misadvised? Blame it on Ruto, AG says. The Attorney General, Justin Muturi, has come out to say that the President does not consult him on a number of key decisions, in spite of being the chief legal advisor on various legal issues. And he says that is why the government has been a butt of jokes in the corridors of justice. We'll be discussing these front pages and a lot more. And in studio with us for this conversation, we have Honorable James Gakuya. He is the Embakasi North Member of Parliament, as well as Dr. Maina Kamau, who is an economist. At the top of the hour, we'll be discussing Kenya's state of economy, especially the distress or the challenges around Kenya's revenue mobilization in a bit more detail. But let's begin, gentlemen. Many thanks for being with us here in New Dawn, with us making headlines on the front page of the People Daily. And Dr. Kamau, I'd like to begin with you and your thoughts on the picture on the front page of the People Daily. And do you believe that the opposition leader will retreat, really, in his calls for dialogue?
Thank you very much, Michelle. Yes, the photo is an interesting one because one of the slogans by the Gen Zs is that they won't believe. And actually, you can see Raila Odinga there being astonished, very surprised, and he's in a shock. And to answer your question, yes, I believe he will retreat because this is not a fight that he started by himself. Mm-hmm. It is a fight that or revolution that was started by Gen Zs, and it's only them who can finish. And I think the reason also why Gen Zs are not for the dialogue is because they have seen what has happened in the past, mm-hmm. especially for like the agreement that the doctors had with the government in 2017. It is yet to be, not even 2017, just the other day when they signed a return to work formula. Mm-hmm. And the government had committed to employing to making few changes in favor of the doctors. And the government is yet to implement that. So Gen Zs, now they have a right to say we don't need more dialogue. Mm. What we need is, you already know our demands, kindly proceed and do as we have requested, right. Not dialogue.
And you know, many Kenyans are now saying that we may need to rest the Gen Z narrative because many more Kenyans of different generations are coming to back this movement by Gen Z. And so now it's literally Kenyans for good governance or Kenyans for Kenyans. But Honorable Gakuya, the story continues on page 4 of the People Daily. It says Raila retreats on proposals for talks on demos. There's a picture there of Raila Odinga at a meeting with youthful members of parliament from the ODM party. And after that meeting, he took to his official Facebook page and said that nimeambiwa na hawa viongozi kama mmesema hamtaki handshake, ujumbe umefika. All right. What do you make of this backtracking of the calls for dialogue yourself?
Thank you, Michelle. Allow me to salute the viewers wherever they are watching. This is morning show from And coming to the Raila's retreat, one, it's only a fool who does not change mind. And if Raila is the believer of his followers, then he should listen to the crowd. And if he really has an intention of getting back to the crowd for probably another chance, even at this particular time, he should not let it alone. Raila is a known factor who makes his own decision even without consulting his team, and still his team buys the idea. Taking to concern about the merger, the handshake between him and the former president Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. It was clear that he did not consult even his team like-minded Kalonzo Musyoka and others. But still, his a team of followers were comfortable with him, and they also sided with him. But in this particular time, the clamor is too high, and the youths are saying, Bamba, this wasn't your fight. This was our fight. Allow us to finish the fight. So we are not giving any single blessing to go to speak on our behalf. So in this particular case, as much as Raila is a representative of the people, I think allowing to lead it, even by the show of his stakeholders, because as mere as it is known as a correction, it does not fall from one single party. It's a combination of various number of parties. We have seen Jubilee distance itself. We have also witnessed Wiper distance itself. We have seen the other party from Western, represented by Wamarwa, also distance himself. Other Madakarwa distancing. And when that kind of partners are saying a different, taking a different position, then as a good leader, you must also allow to listen to from them.
All right, and that is a push now. Kenyans want the leadership to listen to them. But the calls for dialogue weren't just by Raila Odinga, they were also by President William Ruto, who is the president and your party leader. Do you support the calls for dialogue? Because those who do not say Kenyans simply want action. Are you for dialogue?
One, at this particular time in Jackson, Michelle, let me be very, very clear on this, that this particular arrangement of dialogue is not like the previous one. Because the previous one, we have been always seeing Baba pressuring with the demos and everything. And at the end of the day, to cool him down, then the process was to be crafted. But this one, William is looking for Raila, when Raila is not a problem. So, because surely, in the whole concept of the William Ruto's administration, nobody can start to say Raila is an effect anywhere. This is battles which are coming without emanating from Raila himself. Therefore, it is a different dimension. And bring Raila and the rest of the team on board. If probably the ideas of the head of state is to create a bigger government, which is government of national unity, then it tells you he wants to carry blame with everybody else. Because probably he has realized that there's a trouble. And when there's a big trouble and you think that actually you don't want to carry the blame alone, you bring others together so that at the end of the day, the blame will not be directed to you alone. Until the end, all of you carry the blame home.
So many have said just that this is the political class regrouping to safeguard their own political interest. But with regard to the move by Kenyans to demand for accountability, are you in support of dialogue, or should the Kenya Kwanza government simply act on the demands that Kenyans have made?
Probably myself, I have no business with the dialogue. Because what are you dialoguing? The dialogue was between the clamor of the youth, which are the issue are Gen Zs. And the president has listened to them. If he has listened to them and communicated to them, they have directed their needs and desire. And I think if there is any dialogue, it should be between the demands, those who are demanding the changes, and the government, because those are the people who are bringing the trouble. But the trouble is not coming from this other political wing. So, as a president, leave the issues to do with the rest of the dialogue with the main problem. Because I am telling you, you may bring everybody else on board, but you are not bringing on board the main troublemaker. And when the troublemaker is out of the discussion, are you curing anything? Because I'm not sure that actually bringing Raila and the whole team, they will cool down the tempers of GNC at any single point. The GNC will still push their goals. And at the end of the day, you will be crushed by the youth, all of you, at the end of the day.
And you say that the president has listened to Gen Z, but then the question is, why calls for dialogue when he has listened? What are your thoughts, for example, as we move on the calls by the public, by Gen Z, as you say, to bring to account rogue police officers who were implicated in police excesses, excessive use of force, human rights violations, as well as blatant murders on the streets of Nairobi during the anti-finance bill protests? What are your thoughts on that? Because Gen Zs want accountability. We've seen protesters and looters presented in court. We've seen some whose bodies have been found dead. But we've not seen any accountability from the government with regard to the policing service. The president said it is an independent service. However, many say the buck stops with the president. What are your thoughts on the fact that the president has not pronounced himself on this issue?
One, every single falls within this particular Republic of Kenya. We have one commander-in-chief, who is, the commander-in-chief is the head of state. And the head of state always wears three hats. He's the commander-in-chief, he is the head of the government, and he's the president of the state. So those are his three roles and positions, and they work intertwined. In this particular case, any mess that can be created by any single force, whether it is police force, whether it is AP, or is any sector, the buck stopped at him. Because he is the appointee of any particular individual who actually manages that particular administration. And therefore, at the end of the day, that's why the dissemination of information has to trickle to him so that he can take the final mantle. Any decision that can be alive at the top, which today I would say the National Security Council. The head of state has to be the chair of that particular hierarchy. And that tells you what? Anything that is being executed, he has to be part and parcel of a decision alive. So there's no way he can distance or second the blame to anybody, because he is the one to carry the last whip. And he is the one to say, Kindiki, you have failed on your duty, and from tomorrow you are not on duty. Or IG, you have failed on your duty. Then he can do the needful to say, start the process of excusing yourself, or relinquishing yourself for the possession.
It's interesting you say that, because the front page of the Daily Nation has pictures of just a few of the Kenyans who have disappeared in arbitrary abductions and those who have died. The question is, where are they? As many ask for accountability from the government. But the front page of the Standard newspaper has the picture of the Attorney General, Justin Muturi, who says, misadvised, blame it on Ruto. Now, Dr. Kamau, the AG says that even the president does not consult him on a number of key decisions, despite being the chief legal advisor. And then we have a UDA member of parliament saying that, you know, the buck stops with the president. And many are wondering then, is the president listening even to his foot soldiers and Kenya Kwanza members of parliament? What are your thoughts on this front page of the Standard when it comes to the president listening to advice, and whether we need all these advisors that we're seeing in government in the first place?
Yeah, there's that accusation that is being made that the president is actually the advisor of his advisors. He advises his advisors how to advise him. That's an allegation that is out there. And it is true that the president maybe is not listening to his advisors, like now the AG, going by the fact that recently there was this task force that was appointed to audit public debt. And only for 2 days later, the LSK to come out and say we will not be part of that task force because we feel it is illegal. And they proceeded to quote the Constitution of Kenya, where it says the power, the objective, and the mandate to audit public debt is vested on the Auditor General. So the President did not have the capacity to really appoint another task force. So basically, based by that and other cases that we have seen, even the task force that was being appointed for the health sector, again, it received a backlash that it was not necessary. So it is true that there are chances that the President is overwhelmed, and he's overwhelming himself, because if he surrounds himself with people who have the capacity to advise him, then he should be able to have it easier and do the right thing.
All right. The front page of the Standard has just a few examples of the situations that the Attorney General has mentioned. One was the military deployment during the anti-government protests. The Attorney General says that the move to deploy the military in the streets was done without his input. He also says that there is no law that allows police to harm peaceful protesters and that he would never give such advice. Also, he says that on the public debt audit, he says the probe can only be done by the Auditor General, saying that his opinion was not sought as well prior to the announcement of the task force to probe public debt. That's just one, I beg your pardon, of the examples there on the front page of the Standard newspaper. But let's go back to the People Daily, a story on page 3 of the paper. Asfara Malim is now in trouble over his shoot protesters comments. The story is on page 3 of the People Daily, and the Wiper Party has now proposed to that he be expelled from the party as well as from the position of deputy party leader. And the Dadaab legislator has been on the receiving end for allegedly making inflammatory utterances targeting the youth for moving to the streets. And let me just read part of it. And this is an undated video which has since gone viral. Malim is hard speaking in the Somali dialect, saying that if he were the president of Kenya, he would have slaughtered 5,000 young protesters every day, terming the action an attempted coup, saying that it was children of business, wealthy business owners and wealthy parents, kids raised on ill-gotten wealth, that were dropped in the CBD in a coup attempt. Gakuya, what are your thoughts on this debate now, with the Dadaab legislator maintaining that this video has been doctored to suit a certain narrative?
Michelle, let me not be an advocate of Honorable Marim, though he's my colleague. And I don't think that actually a Wiper Party, as much as these allegations were made, I am sure that they have their own ways on how they handle these disciplinary issues. And before they cast their vote, I also believe that actually they must have invited Marin to reason to him. Because they cannot just wake up and make a decision because of a single clip, which could have been doctored. But if they were certain that Marim himself was the initial author of that particular clip, then it is wrong, because nobody can purport to say or to mention such kind of a serious utterance. Because advocating that you could, if you could be the president, then what you could have done is to slaughter 5,000 Jews daily. That means you are merciless. And being merciless, then you are not human at all. And this country is not a revolution country. It's a country which is which has a government, which is a civilian government elected by the people. And therefore, any single time, and our constitution has a very clear window of people redressing. And those the people has their right to redress themselves through even peaceful demonstrations or Those are the means that actually our constitution has allowed. And therefore, their rights cannot be cannot be punished because of that of a particular interest. Therefore, the sentiments made by my good friend Honorable Marim, to me, if they are true, then they are long and they are long-timed, and the utterances are very malicious. And to me, that action that Wiper has taken is quite in order. It's quite in order.
Dr.
Kamal, what are your thoughts on this, even as we move to page 5 of the People Daily?
Yeah, I echo the sentiments shared by Mheshimiwa that those allegations actually, if they are confirmed to be true, they are quite malicious and they were made not in good faith, because actually they are very sensational in nature, they are very insensitive, and for a person who holds that kind of a position in this country, it cannot be dismissed as if those sentiments were shared by a normal person. I think citing from what happens in advanced economies, someone who has been accused by that kind of an allegation should actually step down so that it gives room for investigation. And once he's maybe vindicated that he was not guilty of uttering those utterances, then he would resume to regain his position in the society. But at the moment, I think the rightful thing for Farah to do is actually to really resign from whichever position he has been given by the society, so that investigation could be carried out without any fear or favor or any discrimination.
And so on page 5 of the paper, we'll be discussing this at the top of the hour. The government has cut CS advisors by half, and the head of public service, Felix Koskei, says that should have been effected by today, the 11th of July. That will come in as part of the government's austerity measures, even as the country tries to readjust following the withdrawal of the finance bill and calls for accountability. But I'd like to wind up on this paper review. At the bottom of page 5, there's an article here where the Public Service Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria now claims to have been assigned some of Gachagwa's roles, DP Gachagwa's roles in the coffee sector. And he spoke while addressing mourners during the burial of his aunt, revealing that the president had assigned him the role of spearheading reforms in the coffee subsector. And this is a role, remember, that had been assigned to the deputy president to, among other things, intervene in the sector to rescue it from collapsing. Now, Kuria did not directly mention Gachagua in his address, but mentioned that some individuals who had been given the job had failed to streamline the sector, and that he had approached the president seeking to be given the responsibility. Now, we must take a break, but Honorable Gakuya, Kenyans are seeing a lot of articles and stories coming from the Kenya Kwanza administration that seem to be fueling the narrative by the deputy president that he is being sidelined, that things are not well between him and the president. What do you make of this article? Is there any truth to it?
One, let me say, it is in order to reduce the number of advisors within the ministries, because one, there are too many. And I would say most of them have as no business. They are only consuming from the taxpayers' kitty. And therefore, they need to relinquish the number, even to remain with one or higher when need comes, could be necessary. Coming to issue with Moses Kuria. Kuria is a known public figure in this particular country. And all of us, we know he's a man of drama. He can perform any drama anytime. And going to his assertion that he has been assigned powers to take over the possession of coffee sector, to me, this is just a drama, because there cannot be a verbal communication. And if that kind of communication is being done, it has to be communicated officially, and not anyhow verbal. So he can usurp himself any single power that he may think he can, but officially that should be communicated for the whole coffee sector to know that he's the one carrying the law. But in no matter to do with the relationship between the head of state and his deputy, I would say very categorically that any single marriage is never 100%. But it does not mean that, in fact, if you quarrel on a single night or two, that is a justification to make any divorce. So in this case, I would say very clear, very categorically that maybe the small crash that has been there are not crashes that actually are undoable. And therefore, I would just ask Kenyans to be patient and leave the head of state and his deputy. I am sure that at a point they sometimes they sit down and they talk, and I think anything that actually is not beyond their control can be controlled by both of them. And in case there is an issue beyond their two control, they can always seek for elders to bring them together. But the time has not reached that level.
All right, I'll be discussing politics on a different panel. But I'd like to wind up with page 10 of the People Daily, and that's the daily cartoon there as we take a break. And it's a picture of the political class on a tree. It says Government of National Unity. And at the bottom there, the political temperatures are really rising. It says political temperatures at the bottom there. We'd like to hear your explanation and the interpretation of this picture, even as calls for dialogue now see several core principles, especially within the opposition, backtrack, instead calling for action. Let's take a break here on New Dawn. When we come back, we delve deep into Kenya's revenue mobilization dilemma in the wake of the withdrawal of the Finance Bill of 2024. Do stay with us. Let's come in.